Welcome along to another Ante-Post preview, and we're covering the Brown Advisory / Festival Novices Chase / whatever it's been called recently enough. But before I get to myself and Deasy, I'd like to introduce a new contributor to the Cheltenham Ante-Post preview videos. It's Matt Toombs. Matt, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Daniel. Great to be here. Great time of year, isn't it?
Yeah, Matt, quick intro to yourself. You're obviously mad into the Cheltenham Festival, so we're delighted to get you on board here.
Thanks. Yeah, the run up to it is a bit like the grown-ups version of A Kid at Christmas. The excitement and the anticipation is almost as good as the day itself.
No, it's find that hard to disagree with you. So let's get straight into it. Take a look at the Brown Advisory betting. DC, we'll go to you to have a look at Matchbook's latest prices.
Yeah, so we have Gallopin Des Champs there as top of the market at 3.55. Brainsman's Game is 6.6. Capadano is 9.8. A High Senior is 14.5. Then you have Fury Road 18.5. 300-5 is 22.0. Beacon Age 23.0. Bob Ollinger 27.0 along with Statler and Imbaton. Then you're into Jungle Boogie 30.0. Farouk Deline 34.0. Vanillier, Dusart as well, a few of them at the 34.0, and there's big prices than the rest.
Brilliant. Yeah, Matt, we'll go to you maybe to take a look at some of the front four in the market there. And maybe first of all, have a look at the Willie Mullins runners there, Gallopin Des Champs and Capadano. Gallopin Des Champs, the right favourite for you here?
I think he might be the right favourite, but he's a very, very short price in what's shaping into a very strong renewal. As you alluded to, we've got Willie Mullins bingo here. Capadano's a fascinating horse because the vibes have been really strong about him all season, considering he wasn't running in graded races as a novice hurdler, he was just running in handicaps. He's been good over fences. He got done for toe by Bob Ollinger over 2.5 in the Kalini. But they were miles clear of some good horses there. And often the horse chasing home the elite novice can get underestimated when taking on other horses. So he definitely ought to improve going back over further. But there has to be a possibility he'll end up in the not quite 4 miler, a race JP McManus loves to target. He'd have the huge advantage of Derek O'Connor there. And unless JP buys something, Capadano's his only possible runner. To qualify, he's got to finish in the first 4 in a chase over an extended 2 mile 7 or further. So it is a bit of a watching brief with that. He might run in the 10 up at Navan in February. So he is an uncertain runner here, but it wouldn't surprise me if he ended up the leading Irish contender in the Broadway. And the context of that is that Willie Mullins likes to operate an A-team approach. He likes to split his best novices up between the level weights race so they avoid each other, rather than run 2 A-teamers against each other in the race that suits both ideally. As, for example, Nicky Henderson looks like doing by running his best 2 novice hurdlers, Constitution Hill and John Bond in the Supreme. So who makes Willie's A-team will depend on what happens to novices like Statler or John Colleur. But if Gallopin Des Champs runs in the Broadway, that could push Capadano out of this into the not quite 4 miler, because I think those two will both be A-teamers. Clearly, Fernie Hollow's going to be. So where will Gallopin Des Champs run? He won the Martin Pipe off 142. He's beaten a well-handicapped horse in Langer down there, the pair clear. And he then won a slowly run 3 mile race at Punchestown. Switched to fences, visually really impressive on debut, jumped superbly, hit the line hard. But those in behind were never put in the race. The 3rd Fleur and the 4th Blue Sari looked all season as if they're being laid out for handicaps. So Gallopin Des Champs got a solo. The second 8 had a shame got chinned in a beginners on Saturday by a horse, Champagne Platinum, who'd looked on the downgrade. So that's not to knock Gallopin Des Champs. He looks great. It's just to say the form probably isn't worth anything. And I've got 2 concerns about Gallopin Des Champs per se. The first is stamina. He's only run once beyond 2.5. That was an end-of-season race at Punchestown where they went slowly. He's looked a really quick horse. Whether he'll stay in a strongly run race is open to question. Willie's run the likes of Allahu over 3 miles, and they've subsequently found their niche over intermediate trips. Could be the same with him. And the second is that he improved out of all recognition in the Martin Pipe. That's the first time he encountered a sound surface. He's had that on both runs since. That may have just been natural progression, but genuinely soft ground would be a question mark. He is in the Turners, and whilst it's probably more likely he runs in this, it's quite feasible he switches to that. So you can be really positive about, excited by a cracking prospect and still think they're a terrible Ante-Post price for a race. And against such a strong field, that's my view on Gallopin Des Champs. Can't wait to see him in action again, but at 3.55, you've got to want to take him on.
Yeah, and DC, it's kind of hard to disagree with that. And I guess the interesting thing, the Dublin Racing Festival will also be off. He'd be running 2 miles, 5 furlongs. So his first 3-mile chase start will be the Cheltenham Festival. For you then, looking at other horses that maybe value to take him on, you've been looking at a few.
Yeah, like at this stage, I suppose what we're looking for here is value more than tipping the winner at the moment. Like, and it's a price thing with Gallopin Des Champs. Like he was long odds on the last day and won like a long odds on shot, but as Matt said, there's nothing really nothing to the form of yet. So at that, I know there's a few of your buddies running at fancy prices since last year, so they're doing the right thing there. If you go back, I suppose, look through the rest of Braesman's games, so he was tipped up for huge things last year as well. He's second favourite. Probably rightly so at this stage. A high senior, very, very impressive as well this season. We'll touch on him again in a minute. The ones I was looking at there now today were the Gigginstown ones, because as we know, Micheál is always trying to buy the Gold Cup winner. He always wants staying chasers, and this is the premier staying novice chase. So Beacon Edge and Fury Road are in there at 18.5 and 23.0. Now, I can't see either of these horses really troubling the judge here. They both ran in the Stairs Hurdle last year. They're given next year over Stairs Hurdle, over hurdles. Remember, Fury Road was one of the gambles of the festival. He went from I think it was 21.0. I think he went off a very sharp price and never rose a gallop. I think that was kind of preview night tip. Someone sharp put him up, and there was a huge gamble on him. The one I was looking at a bit further down at a big price is Farouk Daleen. He is currently 34.0 with us now. Farouk Daleen beat Vanillier, I think was on Stephen's Day, on Boxing Day 2020 at Limerick over 3 miles in heavy ground. No, he only just beat him. He only barely got home. And he didn't reappear again after that. I think he might have had a bit of an injury. It was a hard slog that day. He's been out again this season. He's come back. He made a season reappearance over 2 mile 4 at Navan at the start of December and beat Blue Sari by 3/4 of a length, and then went back to Limerick on Stephen's Day, Boxing Day, and was beaten by Master McShee. Master McShee was a big enough price in that day. He was just beaten by a short head. Now, I think they're probably stepping up to 3 mile. That's probably going to be in his favour. I think he's probably run over distances that were too short from this year. Like, as I said, he only beat Blue Sari by 3/4 of a length. And was holding on. There's a few good horses in there behind him, like Ashdale Bob. But I just think at the price of 34.0, I think he's far too big in this. I'd say he'll definitely run in this race as well. He's entered in the Turners and the not quite 4 mile and everything. But his only entry at the Dublin Racing Festival is the novice chase that Monkfish won last year. So that will give me the impression that they're probably going to aim him at the longer trip at Cheltenham. 34.0 is a decent price. Again, he has good back form, beating Vanillier last year, who went on to absolutely romp home in the Albert Bartlett. So just at that price, I think that there's still a bit of juice in it. So I'm going to stick with him this far out at 34.0.
Yeah, Matt, your thoughts on that, and then maybe bring us into a little bit of the Cato Star form.
Yeah, I can understand where Deasy's coming from, particularly if he gets soft ground. He does seem very effective with plenty of cut. So he is a little bit of one for weather watch. Like Deasy, I've been wanting to take the other 2 Gigginstown horses on Ante-Post. Since Young Hustler won 29 years ago, no horse who'd had 2 full seasons over hurdles has won this race. And a lot of them have gone off short prices, very good form in the Stayers Hurdle, more of that, Grand Cru, Time for Rupert, Alpha Desiree, Punchy Sounds, those sorts of horses. As Deasy says, a big advantage to get over fences quickly, as Farouk Daleen has done. So I can understand why he might be the pick of the Gigginstown horses. If you move on to, as you said, to the British form, and I think that there's a general point about punting at the festival here, that a lot of punters might have the lazy view that the Irish horses dominated last year, therefore the Irish novice hurdlers that dominated last year are just going to win the Irish novice chases this year. And they might do, but I think some of the British horses are being underbet. And in the Broadway, staying form over fences counts. In the past 10 years, only 12 horses have lined up, having achieved a Racing Post rating of 160 or more over a staying trip. 6 have won, you'd have made 140% profit back in the blind. And it's often underbet while people are looking for horses with a sexy profile at shorter. And both Brave Man's Game and the Hoy Senior fit that profile. Brave Man's Game's a superb jumper, naturally brilliant from day one. He's got plenty of pace. He was brilliant in the Quarto Star. That's on a very sharp track. It's a test of speed and jumping at speed early on in a novice's career, which was the ideal conditions for Brave Man's Game. But whilst that was over 3 miles, with the Hussey you're not getting into a rhythm, they went very steadily, and Brave Man's Game's stamina wasn't tested. And one Broadway trend that's particularly relevant this year, therefore, with those two running in it, is the Quarto Star form. No winner of the Quarto Star at Kempton has ever followed up in the Broadway. 22 have tried, and they've all been beaten. And whilst that, of course, doesn't mean Brave Man Game can't win, he's a top-class novice, he absolutely can win. There is a reason for that record. It's not just a freak stat. And the reason is that the Broadway is such a different test. It's so much more of a test of stamina, favouring gallopers. And so whilst the Quarto Star winners have never followed up, 5 horses beaten at Kempton this century, top of the game, like Bobsworth, Trabolgan and Rule Supreme, have all won. And often the form gets turned around. The last 6 times the Quarto Star winner has taken on a horse they beat at Kempton, it got turned round. So there's a lot of hope for a Hussey, and he looks an amazing galloper in the Conigry or Denman mould. Now, it's a big call to be comparing him to horses like that, but his demolition job in the Grade 2 Worcester at Newbury was stunning. His 3 opponents finished very tired there. And in the second half of the race, Hussey just poured it on and broke them from a long way out. Now, he is a little bit novice still with his jumping. He'll be extensively schooled. He's likely to have one more run before the Broadway, hopefully, the Towton at Wetherby. And some novices are immediately good jumpers like Brave Man's Game, but others learn through the season. The 8 Broadway winners this century have fallen over fences, including 4 of the last 6. So they are novices. Lots of winners, they improve hugely their jumping through the season, provided they enjoy jumping, which he does. He just needs to be a little bit cleverer when he's on a short stride. And if he can do that and learn to land running when he's not on a good stride, then if he can get into a rhythm as he did at Newbury, I think he can pour it on from the front in the second half of the race and gallop his opponents into the ground one by one. He is in the Cotswold on Saturday. He's got a Gold Cup entry, but given he's still learning about jumping, unlike Conigry at this stage, I think it'd be a mistake to put him into that. I don't think they'll do it. So whilst this market isn't going to move much over the next couple of days, if you share my enthusiasm for Hussey, you could wait until the declarations are out for the Cotswold on Thursday. Assuming he's not declared, then 14.5 looks a huge price for such a hugely talented galloper.
Yeah, it's interesting that because I was looking at his Gold Cup price when I saw he could be in the Cotswold. So it'd be fascinating to see if he is entered there.
Yeah, it's just that you really could bottom a horse. That's a very tough race. It's about 3 miles too. The ground might not be as bad as it usually is, but he's going to be up against horses like Chantry House there. If he'd been like a Conigry and jumped brilliantly, like Brave Man's Game has, he's going for the Denman. I can see that more. I just think Hussey would benefit more from running in something like the Towton and getting more experience of jumping.
And then for you, Matt, just covering other horses that we haven't covered yet, just to give people a quick perspective. So 3 under through 5, the likes of Bob Ollinger potentially going elsewhere. Yeah,
I think Bob Ollinger. There's been quite a little bit of chat the last week or so about that would he switch to this, and I think the theory is that he's a jumper who doesn't really land running, a bit like a Plutar, and that this might give him a little bit more of an opportunity to be measured at his fences. Henry's continually said that isn't going to happen. He's had 5 runners in this, all in the last 5 years, and all of his 5 runners have been campaigned over 3 miles during the season. So I just don't see him suddenly taking a punt on Bob Ollinger's stamina. That he could run in something like the 10 up at Navan, but that's only 24 days before the Broadway. And he's such a free-going horse, there's a good chance that he could just be too keen. So I think he's nailed on to running the Turners. 3 under through 5, there's a decent chance he'll run here. The owner, Max McNeil, said he will because it's important that Adrian Heskin rides him. I can see the logic of that. He doesn't look a straightforward ride. He's got loads of chasing experience, which is a plus. He's been very well placed to win a couple of week Grade 2s. Now, Paul Nicholls likes to leave his charm offensive on owners until near the festival. He persuaded Malcolm Denmark that next destination should be a late switch from this to the not quite 4 miler later on last year. And so that he might do something like that again. But in order to win this, if a few of these main protagonists line up, you're going to have to be an embryonic Gold Cup class horse to win this. And I just don't think he's quite that class.
Very interesting stuff there on that side of things. For my tip, I'm going to take a punt that Capodanno will run here. I was very impressed with him last time out in Bob Olinger. The way Bob Olinger initially breezed past Capodanno, you'd expect it to kick on and win by 10 lengths. And I'm kind of taking the view that Bob kicked on, but Capodanno managed to stay on. And I do think the 3 miles will be a perfect trip for him. It'd be very interesting to see if he does go here as opposed to National Hunt Chase. He hasn't qualified for the National Hunt Chase. And I do think, leaving the JP McManus thing aside, I do think Willie could still run him here, even up against Gallopin Des Champs. So at 9.8, he'd be my selection here. DC, any final thoughts there on the race before we head off?
No, I'd say it's going to be a deep race this year. I'd say it's going to be better than last year. I don't think as many of them will be scared off by Gallopin Des Champs. And even just looking at it now, it looks a fascinating race, and very much looking forward to it.
And yeah, Matt, final word to you, I guess, similar on DC's team there. It's a deep renewal here, and we could get a really good field despite the short price favourite.
Yeah, it looks the best of the novice chases at this stage. And if 3 or 4 of those main horses line up, it'll be an absolute belter. So something to look forward to, yeah.
Brilliant. So do check out the rest of the videos in the Cheltenham Ante-Post playlist, and we'll see you next time.